about being an independent-minded thinker. This is the thing that I believe in. I believe that you should think for yourself. In life, none of us can be absolutely certain about anything. We can't be certain that there is a God. We can't be certain that there isn't a God. But not only, I just want to talk about religious stuff. I want to talk about everything else. People can tell you things. And, we take a risk in what we believe. Most times in life, the risk is so small, it doesn't matter. I was thinking about something William James pointed out, and I thought it was rather interesting. If you go to a party, for example, and people introduce themselves, you don't know if that's really their names. I mean, somebody may say, "Hi, my name is Joe," or somebody else might say, "Hi, my name is John," or "This is Sally," or Betty, or whatever. You don't know. They could be lying to you, but you don't question it. Why? Because if you're mistaken, the consequences aren't that high. I would imagine that for people who believe the earth was flat a long time ago, what were the consequences of believing that? None. What would have been the difference? What would have happened, and how would the quality of their lives have been improved if they had known that the earth was round? There would have been no improvement. In other words, it didn't matter if they got it wrong. It didn't matter. When people believed the earth was the center of the universe, it didn't matter. It really didn't matter that they had it wrong. Most of the times when people get things wrong, and many times we get it wrong about a lot of things, it doesn't matter. I would be willing to bet that maybe, and it would take times beyond our lifetime to know that we're wrong about certain things. But you know what? Mostly it doesn't really matter. I'm willing to take chances. I'm willing to take a risk. In believing something, I'm willing to take a risk. Believing in God, for example, is risky. Maybe believing in a particular politician. This person says they're going to reform things. You believe in that person. You take a risk. You believe someone when they tell you, they promise they're going to help you out with something. They say, "Look, I'm going to help you clean your house, Philip." You can see how messy my office is right here. And this is just a small sample of how messy it is around here. People tell me that, and I believe them. And then they don't help me. Okay, I was disappointed. But what were the real consequences? Was there any injuries? No. Was I harmed in any way that they didn't keep their promise? No. The harm may be more emotional. Maybe I got excited and I really visualized them helping me and seeing my house clean and everything, and so I'm really hurt. Or maybe that politician just didn't live up to what I wanted, and I feel like, oh well. But although one thing I can tell you about politics and politicians, and maybe this is also true with religion, many times a politician will make a promise, and somehow at the end of that person, let's say as president, at the end of his 4 years, somehow we see that we don't care that he didn't keep his promise. Maybe especially if you're a person of a particular political party, or you really like that candidate, you might still support him anyway. You don't care if he broke his promises, or if he didn't keep all the promises, or caused a reform, or he may say something so vague that once it's out there, you say, well, yeah, he did do some reforms, and you can point out things. You're seeing more of what you want to see than what actually occurred. But the thing is that a lot of times in life, everything works that way. We see what we want to see. But what's important, though, is what are the consequences of belief? That's the question that I think very few people address. What are the real consequences of believing a certain thing? If I told you a story about my life, maybe about something that happened yesterday, and you believe me, but let's assume I was lying to you about it. What are the consequences of believing it? Probably none. If you believe my story and you believe something that was wrong, probably nothing's going to happen to you. But sometimes there are consequences, because if you living in mortal fear of certain things. For example, like the guy who was talking about his thing about that if he didn't believe in God, or if he doubted the Holy Spirit even for 1 second, that somehow that's so unforgivable that if you realize for 1 second that you forget to believe in the Holy Spirit and you go back and say, oh God, please forgive me. No, it's too late now. You just did 1 second. You had a sort of what I always like to refer to as a religious bad hair day. You know, it's just, you messed up for life. And you could be a kid running around with this total mortal fear that you're condemned forever. Those are the consequences. It's the psychological torture that you go through. People shouldn't have to go through psychological torture with religion. Religion is something that should be an enhancing thing in your life. Something that should make your life better. Not something that makes you miserable or live in fear and dread and feel like you're locked up in a prison somewhere. You got to be worrying about, is God watching me as I'm masturbating in the shower? Oh my God, God's looking at me. Oh, you shouldn't have to be worrying about that. If God, and not only that, God intruding on your thoughts. I mean, you're thinking about it. Like I see, one of my neighbors, and I look and I say, wow, she looks fantastic. Oh, God is thinking about it. God knows what I was just thinking. Now I'm in trouble. Oh my God. Oh, what am I going to do? This is the thing that I kind of have a problem with. The psychological anguish. And then when you're put in situations like, when I grew up with the Jehovah's Witnesses, they tell you can't celebrate birthdays. What if somebody throw a surprise birthday party for you at work? And you think, oh my God, I'm in trouble with God because now I had a surprise birthday party. What can I do? You caught between a rock and a hard place. What are you going to do? Tell your coworkers, oh, I can't celebrate my birthday because I'm a Jehovah's Witness. Or you go ahead and celebrate it, but then God is really pissed off at you, so you got to pray all day. Please, God, please, please. That was only one birthday, and I couldn't help it, and please, please. No, see, I don't think people shouldn't go through that kind of anguish with religion. I just don't like the anguish. I don't like it, and I learned to cut that out of my life by saying that the reality of it is that we don't know what God would do. We don't know what God would do. Nobody knows. And I'm skeptical of anybody who claims to know. And I mean know, not believe, but know what God is thinking, what God's will is. All these religious organizations or any individual who claims to know what God would do to you, I got problems with that. I question it. I question things. I question, how do you know? I learned something from David Hume in his famous question. I love that question. How do you know? What evidence do you have that God would actually do this to you? The only evidence people can have is, well, look at the Bible. According to Deuteronomy something or Isaiah something else or, whatever. I don't know all the books. This is what would happen. Really, is that proof? That's just another story. That's like me proving my story is true by telling you another story. That doesn't prove anything. But after a while you might get tired and just give in. Okay, you're right. No. I don't stop. I will question until the bitter end. I question until people get so pissed off they want to throw a pop bottle upside my head. I ask questions. I love to do that. I love to piss off people. Because that's just my thing. I just love doing that. I question religious people. One time some guy named Pete came up to me. I don't even know him, but he told me his name. And he was going to throw some religious stuff at me about why I should accept Jesus and everything else. I believe in God. I already accept Jesus, okay? But I just love to go with his little sales pitch. So I started asking him too many questions, and he kind of got a little bit irritated after a while. See, I'm almost like an atheist in a funny way, because I question people who come up to me and start telling me about the Lord. I start asking, well, how do you know this, and how do you know that, and how do you know this, and how do you know that? Because I love to do that. Because a lot of people believe without questioning. I believe with questions, and I still have questions. So my mind could change one day. Somebody might actually convert me to an atheist. That's possible. I'm skeptical that will happen, but I'm always questioning things. I'm waiting for people to actually, give me a good reason. Give me a good reason. But, you know, I'm taking a risk. I'm willing to take the risk of believing. And I consider this to be a risky thing. It's not absolute. I can't guarantee I'll have faith tomorrow. I have it today. And that's all I can ever say. I believe right now. Will I believe in the next 10 minutes? I don't know. Will I have faith a half hour from now? I don't know. Maybe I might renounce the Holy Spirit for the next 10 minutes and then come back to my senses. But if God is so petty that He can't forgive you, then, you know, I got to wonder about that kind of God. Because, you know, you can't trust Him. A God you can't trust, well, you know, all bets are off on that. That's the truth.